Director of National Intelligence came out and said that she had found proof that Barack Obama committed, her words, treason, and that she had sent the proof over to the Justice Department. And I will say, reading through some of those documents that got released, it's a pretty big smoking gun.
Really?
Like, yeah, they basically had...
Let me see this. U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has released a previously classified report, which he says points to a treasonous conspiracy to undermine the results of the 2016 presidential election. It seems as though the Trump administration is willing to declassify anything and everything except the Epstein files, Democratic Senator Mark Warner said. But that doesn't have anything to do with this, right?
Yeah, it's just a distraction, yeah.
The report Gabbard declassified was prepared by Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee. Is dated 18th of September 2020. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at a distraction, a spokesperson for Obama said. Huh.
Well, one of the things that was revealed in the documents was that there was
sorry, one thing.
Sure.
It was declassified on Wednesday, day after President Trump accused former President Barack Obama of leading an effort to falsely time to Russia and undermine his 2016 election campaign. Is that what the documents were about?
Well, what the documents showed was that there was essentially a national security analysis. It was, what do they call it? The threat assessment analysis after the 2016 election, where the intelligence agencies had reached a consensus that there was no meaningful interference in the election.
Of course, for Russiagate?
So now, yes. Now, if you remember, the central claim of Russiagate was there were two aspects to it. One was that the Russians interfered in the election on behalf of Donald Trump. And number two, that Donald Trump was involved in the conspiracy to do so. That like Donald Trump and the Russians were working together to overthrow the election. Now, if true, that's the biggest story in American history, right? That the sitting president is a foreign spy. But what Tulsi, now it had been, the part about Donald Trump being involved in the conspiracy had been completely debunked. It was all based off the Steele dossier. It was all lies. It was all Hillary Clinton op research, campaign bullshit that the CIA and the FBI jumped on. But what Tulsi Gabbard revealed was that they didn't even believe the first part of it.
Wow.
They didn't even believe that Russia interfered at the time. And so anyway, but the broader point to that is, so the Director of National Intelligence came out, said there's proof that Obama committed treason and that she sent it to the Justice Department.
What happened?
And that's the last we heard of that.
Right.
And like, well, what the hell? At some point, you got to come through on one of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. There's never any explanation for a lot of stuff. There's never any real communication. The Russiagate thing was just like, obviously that was ridiculous. Remember, it was just that they were getting a lot of ads on Facebook.
And it was like 30 grand worth of ads. It was like nothing, dude.
And Facebook was, I think they were, I don't want to say they were convicted, but they admitted to helping to influence the
2020.
They admitted to helping influence Biden's campaign in 2020.
Well, not only that, but Zuckerberg on Rogan's show, Rogan asked him about the Hunter Biden story. And he was like, yeah, well, we didn't censor it the way Twitter did, but we turned down the signal so no one could see it. And then he says, he offers this. Joe didn't like ask him. He just goes, well, the FBI came and visited like a week before, and they said, be on the lookout for a big Russian dump. It's going to be Russian influence and Russian interference in the election again, which never happened the first time, but it was going to happen again. And so then he said that essentially he thought that was it. Yeah. So when it came, he was like, oh, the FBI told. So it's not just Facebook interfering. It's the government. It's the FBI interfering to put their thumb on a scale in an election, by the way, against the current commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
Like the current sitting U.S. president. It's even worse than like if they were interfering, which would still be really bad, to keep like the president's competition out. But they're insubordinate. They're interfering to unseat the guy who is the head of the executive branch.
And it's
right
things
now.
like that led to also Trump getting reelected the second time, because it was like, oh, well, the system, whatever this dark system is that already feels dark and feels controlling, hates him so much that they must hate him because he's the guy that's going to help. He's the guy that's going to make things different.
No, that's right. And there's and also because it was just like the I think when they went after him, when they weaponized the Justice Department to go after him, that played into that too. Like they just raided Mar-a-Lago. They're trying him for some bookkeeping issue in New York. I mean, none of this makes any sense at all. It's obviously just that like these shadowy forces don't want this guy in. And so that was a huge part of Trump's populist energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it became like, well, yeah, if the Justice Department isn't fair to him, right? That's the one thing it feels like that we would have, you would hope would be fair in this country, right?
Yeah.
Is like a sense of justice. There's some sense of justice here. And when that starts to fail, you have to start to, there's a part of you that just cheers for that guy. It's like, oh, he can't even get any justice, you know?
Yeah. No, that's right.
It's just, how do you think things look as we go into 2026 here? Because it's just baffling, man. Like, I was hoping to see more things where it's like, okay, we're building things, we're bringing businesses back, and you're gonna start to see certain jobs and opportunities come back to different areas. And if they are, why wouldn't you talk about that more and share that more and inspire people more with that, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's some of the communication that would be nice to hear more of. I think you kind of need a couple years to kind of see maybe what they're going to do with some of these tariffs. If we're making money from these tariffs, what does that go into? You know, maybe it could be set aside and say, well, the money that we're keeping from these tariffs, it's going to go here, and here to support these things or to rebuild these efforts, you know?
The thing is that we're like, the problem in America isn't that the federal government doesn't have revenue. They have a huge tax base. I mean, we bring in more revenue now than we've ever brought in before, just through taxes. Forget the tariffs. The problem is that no matter how much revenue DC brings in, they spend 3 times as much.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're 38+ trillion in debt. And you know,
it fucking feels like a number a kid would say.
Yeah. Well, but the crazy thing is, right, is that our government is so big that the 38 trillion isn't even nearly enough. I mean, it's like the 38 trillion is just what they racked up on the credit card. They were spending our tax revenue that whole time. So they spent tens of trillions of dollars of our tax revenue. And even that's not enough. They can't tax enough and they can't borrow enough. And so then they just print the money.
Yeah.
And this is really the central problem that everyone's living through today, is that if you could go look this up on like charts, but like between essentially from the financial collapse in 2008 to today. So like from, and George W. Bush had printed a ton of money too. But if you just look at like Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump again, we printed something like a third of the money that's ever existed. Like the answer has just been always just keep printing money, keep flooding this. And now people are looking around and they're going, wait a minute. Why is the price of everything out of control?
It's crazy.
Like the Democrats who won, not just Mamdani in New York, but also the gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey that they just won in this last elections in November. All of them ran on what they call now the unaffordability crisis. But like, what is unaffordability? That just means you've debased your currency, right? So this is kind of so the answer is we got to stop debasing our currency. Like the solution would be a gold standard or something where you don't just print money out of thin air. But the problem with that is that you can't really be a world empire and do that. And so in a weird way, you really do have to, I mean, you can't be a giant welfare state either, but you kind of have to make a choice between like Donald Trump siding with the war hawks at every turn or Donald Trump siding with the American people and not debasing their currency anymore. But he doesn't want to do that. In fact, he wants quite the opposite. He wants the Fed chairman to lower interest rates. He wants more money to be lent, more money to be printed, because he assesses that that'll be good in the short term and help him win the midterm elections. But of course, that's like what got us to this place to begin with. So once you're not willing to compromise on actually cutting spending, and you want to keep the empire strong, now you got to come up with other schemes. Well, maybe we put a tariff on Chinese goods, then maybe that'll make them more expensive so people will want to produce here. But those type of schemes never work out, man.
Yeah.
You just can't tax your way into prosperity.
Yeah, we'll put a tax on ball caps or whatever, on butterscotches or whatever.
Because real people got to pay those taxes too. You know?
And it just comes back to the people. It's like, I don't know, where it's such a spot where it's like how much more can we take? We're also gotten too comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're too comfortable. Like how it's hard to like be like, yeah, I'm going to go and talk about this, or I'm going to go protest about this, or I'm going to not pay my taxes, or, you know, it's hard to, when you're like, but you know, we got Netflix, we got this. There's enough food in the cupboard. Yeah,
when you're comfortable, yeah, that's right. People aren't gonna no comfortable country ever leads a revolution, you know. But at the same time, one of the things that I find really interesting.
That's a good statement, man. No comfortable country ever leads a revolution.
Well, there's But I will say
we're getting uncomfortable. It's just like.
But there's a big trend. I think we talked about this a little bit last year, but this was a big trend. One of the things that I'm really optimistic about